Okay, welcome everyone. Hopefully everyone can hear. Uh, Thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar. My name's Beth Cohen-King and I'm the Marketing Director at Margolis Bloom D'Agostino. Very excited for our presentation today. It's very relevant and timely on scams in the new AI environment with Steve Weisman, who's of Counsel at MBD. Just a little bit about Steve. Very lucky to have him. He's a nationally recognized expert in scams, identity theft, and cybersecurity, as well as a lawyer, college professor, and prolific author. I don't know how he has time to do all these things. So including his website, scamicide.com, which helps to inform and aid with common scams and how to prevent them. In his informative speeches, articles, and books, Steve makes difficult subjects such as cybersecurity, definitely AI, scams, identity theft, not only understandable but enjoyable with the humor he brings to these complex issues. I just wanted to say recently, Steve just returned from Washington where he was testifying before the Senate Select Committee on Aging about scams in seniors and the impact of AI on those scams. So we are so grateful that he's coming to talk to all of us, to all of you, about how we can prevent some of this. Just a few housekeeping things. We obviously are going to take questions. The webinar is being recorded. Usually takes me about a week to turn everything around, get it up on YouTube, and then we send out links. So as long as you registered, you will be getting a link. It's also always on our website within a week afterwards. The link is with the title in our news and events section. So don't worry if you have to jump off. We are here. For questions during the presentation, use that question panel. Just type them in. We will do our best to get to as many as we can. I know there will be a lot. If we don't get to some, I will make sure Steve sees all of the questions and he can respond via email at a later date. So I think with that, I'm gonna disappear and I'm gonna let Steve take over.
Thank you, Beth.
Yeah.
Good to be with you. So how big a problem is our scams and identity theft? When it comes to fraud and scams targeting seniors, I'm here to tell you that things aren't as bad as you think. Unfortunately, they're far worse. According to the FTC's Consumer Sentinel report for last year, older Americans reported more than $1.6 billion in losses due to frauds and scams. And this number is undoubtedly lower than the actual figure because a lot of seniors, for a variety of reasons, including embarrassment or shame, failed to report the scams perpetrated against them. The FTC actually estimates that last year the amount lost by seniors to scams could be as high as $48.4 billion. And now, with artificial intelligence, the scams are getting worse. AI has become a sophisticated weapon that can be deployed by even the most unsophisticated scammers. In 2022, older Americans had higher reported losses to scams than younger people, and those ages 80 and older reported the highest individual median losses among all age groups. So why are seniors so much more likely to be targeted for scams? Well, to some extent, it may reflect the thinking exemplified by the infamous bank robber Willie Sutton. When asked why he robbed banks, responded, because that's where the money is. A lot of seniors have a lifetime of accumulated savings that makes them a tempting target for scammers. It's also been thought that seniors might be more susceptible to scams due to being more trusting. And interestingly enough, there have been 2 studies that have found a physiological basis for that opinion. A 2017 study conducted by researchers at Cornell and published in the journals of gerontology concluded that naturally occurring changes in the brains of people as we age makes you more vulnerable to financial exploitation. And the changes were in a part of the brain that signals risk, as well as another part of the brain that controls the ability to read social cues. There was a similar study done back in 2012 at the University of Iowa that found that naturally occurring changes in the prefrontal cortex of the brain made older adults less skeptical and therefore more likely to be victimized by a scam. So let's look at some of the common scams that are targeting older people. For seniors, investment scams result in the largest losses, with losses increasing 175% last year from the previous year. And too often people fail to do the necessary due diligence when investing for FOMO, fear of missing out on the next big trend. They invest in things they don't understand with people they haven't vetted. Bernie Madoff, of all people, actually blamed his victims for their losses, saying that anyone who actually looked at what he did would have known that what he promised was impossible. Too good to be true, guaranteed returns that should raise red flags are ignored by many, particularly when they involve affinity fraud. Now, affinity fraud occurs when a scammer purports to share a connection with the target, whether it be a religious connection, racial, ethnic, or other connection, in order to build trust. My motto is, trust me, you can't trust anyone. And of course, when it comes to investment scams, cryptocurrency scams lead the way. Many people with no knowledge of cryptocurrency rush to invest and fall prey to scammers. According to the FBI's Elder Fraud Report in 2022, reported losses due to investment fraud for older adults increased by 300% from 2021. And the FBI attributes this to the increase in cryptocurrency-related investment scams. The SEC a few years ago put up a website for Howie Coin, and it looked like it was a website trying to get people to buy this particular cryptocurrency. And they had white papers and they had endorsements. The thing looked really, really great. But if you clicked all the way through, at the end, when you got to putting in your money, it told you you would have been scammed. The whole thing was a scam. You got to check these out. Lottery scams are another huge one, particularly for people 60 and older. Americans 80 and older lose the most money to lottery scams, though. It's hard to win a lottery. I can personally attest to that, but it's impossible to win a lottery I haven't entered. However, the scammers, such as those operating the infamous Jamaica lottery scam, which a scammer calls from a foreign country, tells the victim they've won a prize in a foreign country, and continue to convince seniors that they have won the lottery. However, in order to claim their prize, they need to pay income taxes or administrative fees first. And victims of these scams continue to pay the scammers. Discovering you've been victimized by scammers using this scam, this is where it's even worse. Once you've been victimized, the scammers actually give your name to other scammers who will contact you posing as government agencies, who will then say, we will help you out, get your money back. One thing with the lottery scams to keep in mind is, while no legitimate lottery is ever going to ask for administrative fees after the fact, and income taxes is the key thing, because you do owe income taxes on your lottery winnings. However, no legitimate lottery collects these. They either, like Powerball and the others, deduct them before you get your money, or they give you your money and then you pay it. So anytime they ask for anything like that, you know it's a scam. Imposter scams. This is a big one. Scammers pose as company representatives or governmental agencies, and this has long been lucrative for scammers. Now, there are many variations on this. The most common involves scammers calling their intended victims on the phone and posing as employee of the IRS, the FBI, or often when targeting seniors, the Social Security Administration. Scammers also frequently impersonate delivery services. Amazon, of course, is one of the most impersonated, the US Postal Service or UPS. And then, under a wide variety of pretenses, demands an immediate payment, often by gift card. And anytime you get a demand for payment by a gift card, it's a scam. So the scammers will ask for gift cards, credit cards, wire money, Venmo, Zelle, or wired funds. Now, being asked to pay any amount of money, especially through a gift card or Zelle or Venmo, is a clear indication that it's a scam. Alternatively, the scammer may demand that the victim supply the phony governmental agent with personal information such as their Social Security number or Medicare beneficiary identifier, and exposing them to identity theft. One good way to know if it's the IRS calling you is the IRS isn't going to call you. They will never initiate contact with you by phone. However, the thing is, there's a technique called spoofing, whereby if you look at your caller ID, the scammer will have manipulated it to make it appear that it's coming from the IRS. Now, last summer, a woman in Nashville, Tennessee received a call purportedly from a Border Patrol office in El Paso. The Border Patrol agent told her they had seized a package containing illegal drugs that appeared to have been sent to her. She was then told that someone was using her name for illegal purposes. The caller advised her that in order to protect her money, she had to withdraw all of her money in the bank account and deposit it into a Bitcoin ATM provided by the phony federal officer. She was then told she'd be getting a call from a DEA officer to arrange for her to pick up a check for the money the next day. The call, of course, never came, and the money she deposited into that Bitcoin ATM was lost forever. Unfortunately, these scams can appear to be legitimate because, as I said, your caller ID can be manipulated. The truth is, neither the IRS, Social Security, nor any federal agency is going to initiate communication with you by phone, and they will never threaten you with arrest for non-payment of a claim. And no governmental agency will accept gift cards or cryptocurrency payments. It's kind of a sad commentary that the IRS has to have on its website that it does not accept gift cards. Romance scams also pose a great risk to seniors, particularly older widows and widowers. Reports of romance scams of the elderly increased last year by 13%, and the losses have now exceeded record levels. Romance scams generally follow a familiar pattern. The scammers establish relationships online, on dating websites, and social media, using fake names, locations, and images. The scammer may quickly profess his or her love and then, under a wide variety of pretenses, ask for money. Recently, some scammers have actually taken a different approach by opting to build trust and love over a long period of time and then offer a terrific opportunity to invest in cryptocurrencies. Unfortunately, in this instance, the word terrific is the adverbial form of the word terrifying, and the romance scam victim loses the money invested through the scammers. The scammers in romance scams often pose as Americans working abroad or in the military service abroad. Recently, a ruse used by romance scammers involves scammers posing as a United Nations doctor working in Syria. And there are a lot of red flags to help you identify romance scams. Sadly, the most important thing to remember is to always be skeptical of anyone who falls in love with you quickly online without ever meeting you in person, and anyone who early in the relationship asks you to send them money to assist in some emergency. BS, be skeptical. The grandparent or family emergency scam. We've all been familiar with this. And a family member receives a telephone call from someone posing as their loved one who's gotten into some trouble, most commonly a traffic accident, legal trouble, or a medical problem in a faraway place. In the grandparent scams, the scammer pleads for the grandparent to send money immediately to help resolve the problem and begs the grandparent not to tell mom and dad. Now, this scam has been going on for probably about 14 years, but it is getting worse, and we have AI to thank for that. It's a sad commentary of life today that every grandparent, or really any family member, should create a safe word with their loved ones to be used to identify themselves in real emergencies. And how this has been made worse by AI is now the scammer can use readily available AI and voice cloning technology so that with only 30 seconds of the voice of the family member they're trying to impersonate, they can make that call sound like exactly it's coming from your family member. So this is something you really have to be wary of. Tech support scams. These increased by 117% last year for seniors, and older adults are over 6 times more likely to report losing money to this scam than younger people. Victims of the scam are tricked into believing there's a problem with their computer that requires the expensive services of scammers. The most common tech support scam starts with a pop-up on your computer. It identifies security problems, and the pop-up will have a telephone number for you to call to fix it. If you call the scammer in response to concerns about your computer, they often ask you to enable remote access to your computer in order for them to assess the problem. Providing remote access to anyone can lead to a myriad of problems, including identity theft and downloading of ransomware. The truth is, Apple, Microsoft, Dell, or any other tech company will never ask for remote access to your computer to fix a problem. But once again, through spoofing, when you call that number, it may look legitimate. Whenever you get a pop-up, email, or text message that appears to tell you that you have a security problem with your computer, never click on the link in the message, nor call the telephone number provided. If you're concerned that you may be experiencing a real security problem, You can contact tech support or your device manufacturer directly by phone or by email using the phone number and email addresses you can find on their respective websites. So where are you vulnerable? The phone. While older Americans reported being scammed online through online shopping scams, phony website, apps, and social media twice as much as they reported being scammed on the phone, the average losses suffered by seniors victimized by phone call scams were more than twice that than online scams. And scams originating in text messages also resulted in higher losses than scams originating online. In 2022, imposter scams were the most common phone call scams, followed by lottery scams. Bank imposter scams frequently start through a text message, with the scammer telling the targeted victim that his bank account's frozen and they need to provide their username and password to the scammer to unfreeze the account. This is also a reason why people will often be tricked into providing your username and password, which is why you should always have dual factor authentication, whereby a text message will be sent to you with a code anytime you have any account that can allow for that. Scammers can make a large number of calls or text messages now using computers rather than actual phones. The scammers also use pre-recorded robocalls to contact their victims. Illegal robocalls can easily be made by computers using voice over internet protocol accounts, which are ways to make voice calls using a broadband internet connection instead of a regular phone call. And this is, even if again your caller ID says it's legitimate, you can't trust it. Email. Phishing emails and the more specifically targeted spear phishing emails use social engineering to lure the targeted victim to clicking on a link or download an attachment, make a payment, or provide personal information. Phishing emails are often a starting point for scammers, enabling them to access victims at computers, install malware, and even perpetuate data breaches. Phishing emails are sent out in large numbers with nothing in the email that truly relates to the intended victim. Often they appear actually laughably outrageous, weeding out anyone with a bit of skepticism. But spear phishing emails are a different story. They come with your name in the salutation. They have more information about the targeted victim that makes them more believable and therefore more dangerous. Google released a study in conjunction with researchers at Stanford in which they had studied more than 1 billion malicious emails targeting Gmail users. And they found the number of phishing and spear phishing emails that users receive totaled more than 100 million each day. And the most common phishing emails appear to come from social media sites such as Instagram, Facebook, online services such as Netflix, Amazon, banks, or email carriers like Gmail or Yahoo. So being aware of this and being skeptical of emails that come from these parties is the first step to safeguarding yourself against phishing emails. In most instances, spear phishing emails are constructed to convince you that there is some emergency that requires your immediate attention. So here's the thing, when it comes to any kind of email that asks you to click on a link or download an attachment or provide personal information, you shouldn't do so until you have actually confirmed that it's legit. The Internet of Things, it's made up of a broad range of devices connected to the internet, including home thermostats, security systems, medical devices, refrigerators, smart televisions, cars, and even children's toys. In 2018, the FBI began to warn consumers about the dangers posed by the hacking of various devices that make up the Internet of Things. Cyber criminals can hack into devices that are part of the Internet of Things to enlist these as part of a botnet by which they distribute malware. They also can hack into the Internet of Things devices to access your home computer. So they go from your router into your computer. So this is really important to make sure your router is secure and use its whitelisting capabilities, which will prevent your device from connecting to malicious networks. Routers are a critical part of your home security. Check to see if it will automatically download and install the latest security updates from the manufacturer. If your router is an older one that doesn't have that capability, you should check the manufacturer's website regularly for the latest updates. But you're probably better served by getting a newer router. Social media has also proven to be the fertile ground for scammers targeting older Americans. And according to the FTC, the losses by older adults to scams that started on social media went up from 163 million in 2021 to 277 million in 2022. They take many forms, but often based on trusting the people we encounter as friends on social media. And sometimes it's not even coming from a real friend of ours. It may be that that person's account was hacked or cloned, where someone poses as your friend and you trust them. You click on that link in there, or you get involved with the cryptocurrency that they're offering you as something that can help you out. So you got to be very, very wary there. So how's AI making it worse? They've created additional opportunities for phone call scams. The AI can be used to remove foreign accent from scammers' voice, making them appear more reliable to the target. It can also be used by phone scammers to create robocall scripts that can enable conversations with the targeted victims. And AI voice cloning technology can be used by scammers to make the targets believe they're speaking with their loved ones or other familiar figures. Fortunately, while AI is a tool that can be misused by scammers, it's also a tool that can be used by the good guys. Machine learning algorithms can learn to recognize patterns in robocalls. And once these patterns have been identified, the algorithms can block calls that match these patterns. In addition, by using AI natural language processing technology, the contents of the robocalls will be analyzed, and if determined to be a robocall, can be blocked. So this is something that's really looking better. So what should you be doing? You know, the to-do list, first of all, you want to never use a debit card when you are shopping. Debit card doesn't come with the protections from fraud that a credit card does. With a credit card, you're only liable for no more than $50 worth of fraudulent charges. But with a debit card, if you don't report it right away when you are scammed, you could potentially lose your entire bank account. Never click on links or provide personal information in response to an email, text message, or phone call. You never know who's really calling you and contacting you unless you've absolutely confirmed it. And get on the do not call list, the federal do not call list. It's not perfect, but the very fact that you're on that do not call list, if someone calls with a business proposal, that means that they are violating the law and you don't want to talk with them anyway. Charities are an exception on the federal do not call list. So when it comes to a call that you get from a charity, once again, you really can't tell if it's legit or not. It may be a phony charity. It may be someone posing as a real charity. The best thing to do is, if the charity sounds like something you may be interested in, go to a website, charitynavigator.org. And by going there, you can find out for free two things. One, if the charity is legitimate, and of course it will give you the real contact information for that, but it'll also tell you how much of what the charity collects is actually going towards its charitable purposes. So it's really good. Use dual factor authentication whenever possible. This will help protect you in case your username and password ever get corrupted, and very often they are compromised in myriads of data breaches. Another quick thing here, in regards to passwords and security questions, you've got to have a unique password for all of your accounts. And one reason for that is your passwords will get compromised. So if your password gets compromised in a data breach one place, let's say it's Amazon, you don't want the scammers to be able to know that they can use that password to get at your bank account. So you want to either use a password manager, or if you're like me, I like to find my helping hand at the end of my own arm. So what I do is I start out with a base password. I don't like passwords, a sentence. You got capital letters, small letters, an apostrophe, add a couple of exclamation points at the end, and you've got a strong base password. Then you can adapt that for each of your accounts. So your Amazon password could be, I don't like passwords, 3 exclamation points, AMA, and you will remember that. But what happens if you don't remember your password? And what happens if the scammer wants to get at your password by saying he's you and then answers your security question? You know, quite often the security questions are things that can be readily found out. Sarah Palin's email was hacked when someone answered her security question, which was where did she meet her husband, now ex-husband. Went on Wikipedia and found out it was still a high school. Now, you and I aren't going to be necessarily on Wikipedia, but the kind of questions that are asked as security questions can be often readily found online. So for instance, a common one is, what is your mother's maiden name? Fine, that's not a problem, because you don't have to answer the question honestly. So you can make your mother's maiden name fire truck or grapefruit. And it's that kind of thing is so silly, you'll remember it, and no scammer is ever going to be able to do it. Freeze your credit and freeze your children's credit, because now, since the Equifax data breach, Congress responded by making credit freezes and unfreezing of credit totally free and allowing minors to have their accounts frozen. Believe it or not, kids are 70% more likely to become a victim of identity theft than adults are. So freeze your credit. It's very easy to do. And it's also something that is easy to unfreeze. So I recently had to lease a car. And what I did was I unfroze my credit online very easily. And to refreeze it, all I had to do was indicate that it should automatically be frozen after 24 hours. By the way, when you're freezing your credit at each of the 3 credit reporting agencies, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, also do it with NCTUE, the National Consumer Telecommunications and Utilities Exchange. And this is the credit reporting agency that's used by mobile phone services. You also want to sign up for My Social Security account. This is a way of doing and conversing with Social Security online. It's very, very effective, but you also want to get in there before a scammer does, because scammers would set up a My Social Security account in your name and then change the address of the bank to where the check would be going. So My Social Security account is a real good thing to do. Also, sign up for the U.S. Postal Service's Informed Delivery. The way informed delivery works is the day before your mail is going to arrive, you will see you can go online and see pictures, photographs actually, of the mail that's coming to you. So you will know if it's something that you really need to have someone pick up right away, or it's sensitive. You can know that ahead of time. And once again, even signing up for the service, because scammers do that. Scammers also will try and steal your mail looking for checks. A lot of people still are sending out checks. Frankly, what they do is they steal the checks from your mailbox, and even we've had a real epidemic of this from the blue U.S. Postal Service mailboxes. They wash them, they call it with Clorox, and change who it's paid to, or they get the information of your account number and the bank's routing number, and they're easily able to counterfeit checks. You also want to make sure that your security is, the security software you're using is up to date, because this is one of the things where quite often people don't update their security software enough, and it's so important to do so. You know, ultimately, as far as getting ahead of this, you also want to monitor your credit. Now, years ago, we were able to get your credit report from each of the 3 credit reporting agencies once a year. That actually got changed during the pandemic temporarily. And now you can get your credit report weekly from each of the 3 major credit reporting agencies. And they have slightly different reports, so you do want to get it from each of them. One thing to remember in getting these is the only legitimate source for this is annualcreditreport.com. And it still says annual, even though now the law has permanently been changed so that you can get it weekly. So you do you monitor your credit, you freeze your credit reports, you take these steps, you don't click on links. It reminds me, before I taught at Bentley, I used to teach in the state prison system, and I had a student at Walpole who was doing 2 consecutive life sentences, which meant that when he died, he would start his 2nd life sentence. And I said to him, oh, I was always curious about it. He said, me too. He said, when I got sentenced, I shouted out to the judge, how do you expect me to do 2 consecutive life sentences? And he said, the judge just looked down and said, just do the best you can. So ultimately, that's what it comes down to. Being skeptical, taking time to think things out, taking basic precautions, and you can go a long way towards protecting yourself. Okay, we can open up for questions.
Okay. Hi. Well, thank you, Steve. So much information there. There was a question about creating a handout with all the to-dos. Is that something that we could put together?
We
Or
absolutely can. I can have that ready for you, Beth, in a few days.
okay, great. And then this was a question about a router. Our router is provided by the town who provide internet service. Last year I called to ask about updating or replacing, and they claim that the router, which is 10 years old, is perfectly safe. What should I do?
Yeah, in some internet service providers do provide a router as well. But quite frankly, 10-year-old routers, uh, they're not probably going to be automatically updating. So you want to see if it has whitelisting capabilities. And whitelisting capabilities means security software is generally blacklisting or whitelisting. Most security software is blacklisting, meaning it blocks known threats. With whitelisting, it blocks anything that has not been authorized. And frankly, with your home router, it's a good thing to have it do that. The other thing, again, with the automatic updating, but also with your Internet of Things devices, like your smart TV or smart thermostat. The better routers will have you be able to create a separate network for your Internet of Things devices, so that if somehow, even if your TV was hacked, they wouldn't be able to get to your computer. So the short answer, which I should give them right off the bat, is 10-year-old router may not necessarily be up to the task. And if it isn't automatically updating, and then it's up to you to check it, say, every month or so to download any updates. It may even be worth getting your own router.
Okay. No. No, we don't need the email addresses. We have them. So someone asked, do you need email addresses for the handouts? No. We have everybody's email address when you registered. Okay, and then another question, are we less safe with smart devices if we don't use Alexa or equivalent?
One of the big things with Alexa and Siri is they're connecting you to the internet. So one area where we've seen real problems is someone asks for the customer service number for Netflix or for someone else, or a tech support number. And there are some sites that we use that don't have phone numbers for tech support. But what scammers do is they're able to kind of manipulate the search engines in two ways. One, having their money do the talking. They'll buy an ad, so they'll pretend to be the customer service for Netflix, and by buying that ad, they'll be up at the top of a search, and that's what Alexa or Siri will tell you. Same thing is, otherwise, there are some very sophisticated cyber criminals who are able to manipulate the algorithm so that even though they're phony, they can get a top position. The bottom line is, trust me, you can't trust anyone. When it comes to Alexa or Siri, you want to take any information that you're getting with a grain of salt and really confirm it yourself. When you're doing things like having music or asking it simple questions that don't require you to give personal information or anything, then it's pretty safe.
Okay. What about emails that appear to come from someone on your contact list but is from a scammer? Should you simply delete the email immediately, or should you let the proposed sender know that his or her email has been compromised?
Yeah, you want people to know that their emails have been compromised. And, this is the thing. I can give you a common one that I'll bet all of us have gotten is, can you do me a favor? I'm going to be out of town and I need to get a gift from my niece. Would you pick up some couple of $100 worth of gift cards and just give me the numbers? I've seen this many, many times. it's important because people will fall for it. The same thing is if you get a friend request on Facebook or somewhere else where you're already a friend of that person. They call it Facebook cloning. Someone sets up a page that seems to be that of someone you trust. And that's the problem. We trust it and we get into trouble. So first of all, if you get one of those and you can recognize that it's a scam, tell the person so that they can alert people so that in their list so that they don't become victims. And then you have to, monitor yourself to make sure that you're not becoming one of these people whose email has been taken over.
Okay, and then what do you mean by freezing your credit?
Oh, great question. So this is the single best thing you can do to protect yourself from identity theft. And kind of start off by saying, we've all heard about identity theft insurance. Identity theft insurance does not protect you from identity theft. All it does is it lets you know a little bit earlier that you've become a victim. So it's kind of like, I say, someone's crossing a street, they get hit by a bus, and someone else runs out to them right away and said, you just got hit by a bus. It'd be much better not to get hit by the bus. So with the credit freeze, when someone is able to, say, get your social security number, they can manipulate that and use that and leverage that to get at your credit report. And if they can get at your credit report, they can take out loans. They can get all kinds of, they can get jobs. I mean, your credit report can be leveraged in a lot of ways, but the biggest thing is buying things, buying big ticket items, which you would have to have your credit approved for. Now, the credit reporting agencies never wanted us to freeze our credit. Steve Jobs once said that if you're not paying for a product, service, or product, you are the product. And these credit reporting agencies sell our information. But if our credit report is frozen, they can't sell it. So they'll tell you, put a fraud alert, which means that before anyone grants credit, they have to contact you. But the fraud alerts are largely ignored. With a credit freeze, there is a lock on your account. So even if someone got your social security number, they would not be able to get at your credit report. They would not be able to make a big purchase item. They would not be able to take out a loan. And it's a very simple procedure now to both freeze and unfreeze online. So it really is a no-brainer. Everybody should do it. It's the single simplest and best thing you can do to protect yourself from identity theft.
Okay, I think we have probably time for just two more. Are there programs you recommend to put on the phone of an older adult to block scams?
Quite frankly, what I suggest is what I do is if I don't recognize the number, I don't pick it up. I do think you should be on the do not call list and limit telemarketers. But I really think the safest thing to do is just don't pick up if you don't recognize the number. If it's a legitimate call, they'll leave a message and you can, on your own time, decide whether you want to get back to that person. And I like that. I like the simpler route rather than some kind of program that's going to be screening. But even that being said, there are some good anti-robo calls like No More Robo, and those are worth getting.
Oh, sorry. Okay, and then how can you know if your email or maybe just your address book has been compromised beyond hearing from a friend about a phony email?
Yeah, and one of the reasons that your email sometimes is compromised is the hackers hack into your email and then use it to send out wide scams, and they call this a botnet. And what happens is the scammers will make a whole network of computers that they have they've infected. Generally, if your computer is slow and you're noticing it's slow, another thing is you may get back a mailer demon, meaning that it's an email that you sent out is returned to you. And if you get back one of those where it was an email that you didn't send, that's another indication that your email has been compromised, and you need to get a new password and new security question.
Okay, and then last one or two. These are the two last ones. If you freeze at one credit bureau, they are all contacted, right? Or do you need to contact each one?
No, great question, Beth. And with fraud alerts, which are worthless, those all you have to do is contact one, but I would say ignore it. With the credit freeze, you have to contact each of them. They don't make it that easy. So you do have to contact each of them. But that being said, it's become so much easier to freeze and unfreeze your credit online, but you do need to do it at all three: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. And as I said earlier, I would even do it with the NCTUE that is used for mobile phones.
Okay, thank you. And then last one, are password managers safe?
You know, even paranoids have enemies, and this is one where, by and large, password managers have proven to be safe, but they have also been hacked. And so, you know, if people want that convenience, and the chances are that you're probably safe there, it's okay, and they are largely safe. I'm still personally a little skeptical, and I think by just having unique passwords that are easy to remember, with the trick that I was saying, the I don't like passwords and a few letters for each one, you keep control over your own. And there have been some data breaches at password managers, so I like to do it on my own.
Okay, so I think that is it for now. Just as Steve, thank you so much. Super informative. Definitely got some. I already got some. This was fabulouses. So that is great. I think just you are a wealth of information and knowledge, and I think really can help a lot of people protect themselves. So remember to look at scamicide.com. Lots of information there. And we will have the recording of this. Give me about a week to turn everything around. And we will work on, our last deliverable is work on a checklist that Steve will work on, and I'll make sure to circulate for all of you. Thank you so much, Steve. Thanks to all of you for listening in too, and happy holidays, everyone. So take care. All right.